Chitlake and impressions. So the current which descended in the being of man had traveled through space on accounts of its propensity and went on changing because it had come down, affecting actions. It formed a center as every action normally does. And this center is known as Chitlake. Chitlake is a place where everything remains inclined downwards with no tendency to rise upwards unless his own or the master's power becomes instrumental in this respect. When that is got over, it resumes an upward tendency. So if we secure our position at Brahman Mandal, Parabrahman Mandal, it doesn't cut it because Chitlake is beyond that. And that action, like there is no static position. And if we don't cross Chitlake, then our tendency to flow along with it, come down is much higher. That's why one of the reasons we see many people keep on oscillating. And we say, why is this person not progressing or why is he exhibiting certain qualities? Because this Chitlake has become a barrier to that person. Now, the thing which had entered into our being created dim vibrations, causing a gentle force which descends into the Vishuddhi chakra, pharyngeal plexus, through the particles. And that is nothing but our point 5. This chakra, often known by diverse names, is a meeting place of the Pinda and the Brahmanda, that is microcosm and the macrocosm regions, and is the seat of Maya. Immense power is located there. A man gets into dreams when his thought comes in touch with this region. This is one reason why when during our yatra, we don't do a yatra of this region, we just bypass that region and go into the Brahman Mandal. Next, you know how these position points are laid out in our system. A, B, C, and D. Now this X is an arbitrary point, imaginary point that exists in the midpoint between point 3 and 4, where the Chitlake descends. It now divides into 3 branches. The middle one proceeds a little downwards and forms into a sort of knot at the place where point A is located. So one stream comes into point A. The other two go towards the right and the left. On the right side, it enters into the Atma Chakra. On the left, it enters into the lower region of the heart. So it's a zoomed version for you. So it's a very simple text. The text is there in Complete Works of Ramchandra Volume 2, Our Real Nature. And one of the points here for you to note is, here in this text, he says there are 3 currents divided at the Chitlake. Homework, research, whatever you may want to call it. When we are giving Chitlake diversion sitting, we only see one current here and one current here, and we don't talk about this current at all. We divert any current that is going into point 1, the lower portion, we take it and divert it towards the center of the heart. I mean, into the Atma Chakra. So this is a point that I would like you all to explore as to why that is, that we don't talk about this current that is going here. Why are we not diverting this? Why are we not even talking about it? So that's a homework. And you can do it in next 5 years, 10 years, it's up to you. Or, you know, you spend your time and know about it, because it's not a easy thing to say by giving 1 sitting, 2 sittings. we may have to give 50 sittings, 100 sittings to know that. Next. So it is the same, a visual interpretation of the same thing that we just discussed, how various things happen. So from Chitlake, it comes here, goes to point X and divides into 3. One goes to A, one goes to point 1 lower area, and another goes to the center of Atma Chakra. Next. Whenever you think of anything, the idea comes first at A, and whatever you think repeatedly located at the point A, you will form your fate accordingly. This is taken from Complete Works of Ramchandra Volume 1. And I will send you the slide deck, so you don't have to take any notes or anything. It is all there in the slide deck. At the point B, if you meditate that you are becoming devoid of all sensual things, the result will follow in the shortest possible time, which you cannot even imagine unless you do it yourself. Point C is really a strategic point, the key to all secrets about man's evolution, where the positive and negative aspects come together and also are balanced according to the divine laws. No incarnate being is perfect. One must come to terms with their personality and the different sides of themselves. This gray area should help to identify what characterizes their humanity and makes them advance on the difficult path of life. Multiple underlying effects manifest themselves also and are recorded on this characteristic point of the human race, which cannot be revealed at this stage of man's evolution. Again, don't go by this last sentence. If you really want to find out what this point C is, you can explore, do research, and you can present the research findings to Daji and get them validated. So they don't reveal to general public, but it doesn't mean that we don't have to explore it. Point D is where the heaviest of impressions settle. Now, we are exploring further this area and see how a balanced life looks like. So we have seen that the Chitlake currents are descending and a portion of it is coming into the lower portion of the heart. Now, these currents, the impressions from point A, B, the qualities of point A, B influence these, and they go into this lower area of the heart and influence our world. So our education, our material life, our family life, all are guided by this particular flow and the actions that we take and the action that goes into the world. And for every action that we take, the world sends a feedback. So point A, point B influences this area, and the world accordingly sends a feedback to point C. All the feedback is received at point C. And now based on type of qualities, that will go to either point A or B. And here, if you notice that there is no impressions that are being formed at point D, and everything is very streamlined, and this is what a balanced life looks like, where we don't form any guilt. Some impressions on point A and B are required for us to continue our material existence. That means as long as we are here, there needs to be a samskara, or the samskara actually keeps us here. And it is one of the benefits, one of the gifts that master give us. So they actually make sure that we cover as much distance as possible within this lifetime. So they feed the samskara cycle if needed, so that they can keep us here and cover maximum distance in this lifetime. Now a flow chart on how these things work. So we start our with the world, and world sends a action. It sends a response. We collect that information, thoughts versus feelings, at point C. And from point C, the first evaluation happens. Is there guilt associated with the thought or feeling that is coming to me from the world? Let us say there is no guilt associated. Now you check whether that particular thought or feeling is related to a material life or the sensual life. If it is material life, it goes to point A. And if it is related to sensual life, it settles at point B. Now, both of these thought feelings, they either want us to take an action or not take an action. So, is there an action associated with that thought or feeling or not? Every thought that or feeling that comes to us from the world, we actually react, we respond. Rarely we let it fall through and don't act upon it. So this is another check to see whether we are going to act or not. Let us say we have to take action. Now, in taking action and taking no action, there are two activities involved again. Let us take the take action side. Okay, we have to take action, and we say, did we take the action or not? If we took the action, that means right task, right action. It goes to the lower portion of point 1, and from there it goes back into the world, and the feedback cycle continues. This is right action and the right results. That is a flow. So there is no guilt. It doesn't matter whether it is point A or point B, so long as it's the right action that we have to perform, and we have performed the right action, and it continues here. But what happens if we have to take action and we did not take action? Okay, we have to take action, but we did not take action. We accumulate guilt. So it settles at point D. And since we haven't taken the action, there is nothing, no response from the world. That will come later. Now, the other part of it, that means we should not take action. Then what did we do? Did we take action or did we let it slide? Let us say we let it slide. That means we did not take any action. As suppose, like, we are trying to speak to someone and that suddenly escalated into an argument. At that moment, if we step back and not take any more actions, and we'll say, okay, you know what, we'll connect back later, and we drop that particular conversation, we would save a lot by not taking that action. But let us say instead we prolong that argument or something. And then what happens? That means we should not take an action, but we took the action. So we have done it. So automatically we feel, there is an impression at the guilt point, point D. And then because we took action, it goes into the world. And now the results of the wrong action will come to us. And once that flow comes back here, so this flow, when it comes back here to point C and to further to guilt, now you have yes. Is there guilt associated? Yes, there is guilt associated. Now what happens? Immediately we send another impression to point D. That means for every action that we ought not to take, or every action that we have to drop, we are penalizing ourselves twice. Once by doing something we should not do, and when the world responds to it, feeling guilty about it. So every time we do something that we are not supposed to do, we are punishing ourselves twice. And then subsequently we punish ourselves much more by brooding over it again and again, and that keeps on accumulating at point D. So this cycle continues until a time that we cannot take it anymore. And the heart says, enough is enough. Now I'm going to exit. So all these samskaras that have been formed and registered at point D and in other subtle bodies, they are carried over and they are stored in Chit Lake, waiting for the right opportunity to take birth and exhaust those samskaras in the subsequent lives. Again, for this portion, I will send the recording, so you don't have to worry too much about it. You can watch it multiple times. So that is the feedback loop, and it continues on and on. Now what happens? So now we form the impressions, we keep on forming, and this continues. And we are now from balanced state, we are going towards imbalance. You see the impressions settling here, other than what was already there, which was supposed to fuel our life. Apart from that, we are now accumulating grease, grime, and things like that into these wheels, these chakras. Now it progresses further, and then what happens? Wrong actions, they affect life in various ways: relationships, family, education, everything, right? Like someone lost a job. It's so many people have jobs and some people don't have. Why is that? It is a case study again. So we can actually map it through. If you run 10, 20 cases through this particular cycle, you'll see the intricate methods on how this entire patterns of samskara is weaved in their lives. So wrong actions start affecting the life based on how the Chit Lake currents are modified and influenced by this A and B. The influence of point D is not yet perceived. And this is a perpetual loop. It keeps on going because now there is no interference by anybody. For example, we are talking about people who are not yet practicing the system, where there is a master of caliber who can burn the samskaras and set the cycle in order. Now, success and failure will start affecting the world. And emotional states also will keep on changing. And they start affecting, like, for example, any emotions and passions that are accumulating at point B, now they start influencing point A. And when our samskara burn rate is lower than the samskara formation, automatically the subtle bodies are flooded with all these impressions. Now there is no more room, everything is being filled up. Then what happens? It affects our drive drastically. So the results start getting skewed because of these passions that are run over in our lives. Like, for example, let us say a person who's in love, he fails in love. He starts developing a state of dejection. That means he proposed to a girl or someone proposed to a boy and that relationship went to shatters. And they have gone through emotional trauma. What happens? It's not going to just stay localized to point B, it affects their material life. So all these are connected, and these connections we must understand, so that once we understand this theory and we start looking at abhyasis, we don't even have to really ask them any questions. We look at their heart, we find these patterns, and we start slowly unweaving these patterns so that master can weave their destiny. That is the job of a preceptor. Like cleaning means, what are we cleaning? It is nothing but all these fibers that are intertwined. We are trying to separate them and burn them, remove them from the system, thereby helping the abhyasis burden on the heart to be lessened to a great extent, and allowing these chakras to function as they are supposed to. Now, not just this point one, right? This is here in this picture, if you see, there is only point one so far. Now what happens, like relationship is disturbed, that means point three is affected. So samskara goes through point three. Similarly, peace is affected. It travels to, that impression travels to point two. Loss of courage, it travels to four. Confusion and lack of clarity, that means, hopelessness, confusion, no, nothing else. So that goes to point five. All these things happen because one, this chakra cannot handle anymore. Not only this chakra, between these chakras, like, if you go further, I'll show you in the next slide. So if we understand this particular point here, that means once point one is ruined, it is not going to keep itself, take the burden all by itself. It is our chakra system works like one for all for one. So all our energy, like all these points are connected with a fine energy network, and they transfer the load to one another. And this is where our emotional imbalances occur. So if peace is affected, it goes and affects peace in the point two. That is, point one transfers this to point two because they are connected. Let us say, on the other hand, we are internally brooding about something that, I have an assignment to complete. I haven't done anything yet. And I'm thinking about it. Oh, if I did not complete my assignment, my boss would do this, my job will be in jeopardy. And I'm trying to brood over that and generate fear, losing my peace. Okay, so, right? So you follow this thread here, and you know how it is connected. You destroy your peace. And once the peace is destroyed, it is also going to send those currents to point one and disturb point one also. So this entire network is laid in such a way that they keep on transferring energies. Similarly, good things also get transferred, but we are not so focused on good things because our brains are, according to research, wired for negativity. That is, as part of evolution, that we have learned to be negative, and we have negativity bias by nature. So to convert ourselves to positive, not to brood over anything else, is a skill that we have to develop. That's why after every sitting, Daji says, read your condition and live in your condition, imbibe it, become one with it, so that we lay down the neural networks of happiness and strengthen them again and again. That is why we need to read the condition and establish that condition firmly inside our hearts, because our heart is directly connected to our brain. The amount of communication that goes from heart to brain is much more than what comes from brain to the heart. That is proven research. So this is the network. So these functions of point A, B, C, and D are very critical. They are closely connected to the heart, and the heart is largely responsible for our mental and emotional state. Now, whenever we react to something with like or dislike, specific vibrations emerge at point C. Now, depending on the intensity of our reaction and the nature of its vibrations, a ripple effect is created. That ripple takes those vibrations from point C to either point A, B, or D. Point A is associated with material life. So whenever our reaction concerns a worldly like or dislike, the vibrations at point C ripple to point A. Let's look at point B. This point is associated with sexuality. Whenever we react according to the sexual urge, the vibration from point C ripple to point B. This rouses a feeling of passion. Although here in Heartfulness Way book, Daji mentions point B is associated with sexuality. In another instance, he mentioned anything that interferes with brotherhood is associated with point B. So point B cleaning becomes very important for us. Similarly, point A meditation becomes important because though it says a material life here, if we closely observe, apart from our breathing, whatever the air we breathe, everything else is associated with one or more persons in the chain. Drinking water, for example, the water comes through some pipes, someone has laid it, someone is opening the water for us, and someone is monitoring the water flow. All people are involved. So if we have a friendly affection towards the world by doing point A meditation, automatically anything that is coming through someone else's hand becomes a blessing. Whatever is beneficial only will come to us, because everything is a vibrational match. That's why we have to do point A meditation. Point D is the guilt point. When we ignore our conscience, guilt forms at point D. The effect of guilt is extreme heaviness in the system. Now, how is this knowledge useful? Once we know what is interrupting our work and giving us negative results, we can apply techniques to overcome. Not only for Abhyasis, for us also, we can use these techniques. What techniques are available? Point A meditation. This we know, we have to do it before bedtime for 10 minutes, thinking that all human beings are our brothers and sisters, and meditate with that feeling and intent. Without feeling and intent, nothing works in Sahajmar, we all know that. For point B, there is cleaning, which we do before morning meditation. Not only that we are removing all the sensual thoughts, we are also removing anything that obstructs our brotherhood and unity. Point C, constant remembrance. So how do we protect ourselves from forming impressions? Because we have seen that it is point C that is responsible for everything. That means all the likes and dislikes and how it is channeling those responses to various points. If we have constant remembrance, then we cut short all these things, at least during the time that we are remembering at least. That's why one of the ways to have constant remembrance is to maintain our meditative state. And point D, prayer. So this is a bedtime prayer. This is various prayers. Like if we are doing for ourselves, it's a bedtime prayer where we resolve not to commit the same mistakes again, beg for forgiveness. And if it is for an Abhyasi, when we are giving a sitting, before giving the sitting, we pray for Abhyasi spiritual growth, for removing the quality that is obstructing his progress. And then towards the end of the sitting, we prayerfully induce a quality that is going to help him progress. All that is prayer. After practicing all of this, if negative results persist, acceptance is the key. That is how our destiny is ordained, and we take miseries as divine blessings. So again, when life is going through hardships and we are praying and nothing is happening, Lalaji Maharaj says, we have to accept it and as a divine blessing. That means Master has given it as a gift, and it shows ingratitude to Master when we don't accept the gift that he is giving us. So that is a philosophical point of view, but very practical too. Now again, so by whatever means, we have to establish balanced life. So if we know what balanced life is, then we can work on it.